All right, everyone, welcome back. As I've told you before, I told you that I will be taking some review questions based upon each and every module that we are taking as of now. So, the first review question that I'm going to take now is for virtual machines. I hope you have seen all the videos of my virtual machine, which I have asked you to watch. Once you are done with that, come to this video. Here we are going to discuss about the review questions. If you haven't watched the video already, please go over there to the video and check over there. Do a complete review of the video, try to do the labs as well, and then come to the review questions over here. Otherwise, it won't make sense to you. So let's take the review questions from the module about virtual machine and virtual machine scale set. The first review question is, you host a service with two Azure virtual machine. You discover that occasional outages cause your service to fail. What two actions can you do to minimize the impact of outages? So it is saying that you have two Azure virtual machine, and because of certain outages which happens from the Microsoft end, your service fails. That means your Azure virtual machines are not available. What can you do to minimize the impact of outages? If you have seen my video, I have already described to you that to attain high availability, you have to keep your virtual machines in an availability set. So when you have two virtual machines, you have to keep them in a availability set to make sure that those two virtual machines are uh, at least one of those two virtual machines is available all the time, right? So what is the first thing that you need to do in here? You need to obviously put the virtual machines in an availability set. Does putting the virtual machine in a scale set helps you in this scenario? No, because scale set does not work on occasional outages. Scale set works when a particular threshold is reached, and afterwards it automatically spins up or spins down VM. So that is not there. Do you need a network gateway for that? No, you don't know what a network gateway is as of now, right? Because network gateway is something that comes inside the virtual networks part. So leave that. Add a third instance of the virtual machine. That won't help as well. Why? Because if the if that virtual machine is also on the same fault domain and update domain, it will fail. So what guarantees that your uh, virtual machines are highly available? Keeping them in an availability set guarantees that your virtual machines will be highly available. The first option is add a load balancer. This is by default there. Whenever you create a virtual machine in an availability set, you have to by default keep them behind a load balancer so that all the traffic which is coming to those virtual machines is automatically balanced. So what are the answers? What are the two actions that you need to minimize the impact of outages? The first one is add a load balancer, and then behind the load balancer put the virtual machines in an availability set. Okay. The second question is, you are researching Microsoft Azure for your company. Let's suppose you are thinking that I'm going to take Microsoft Azure and I'm going to present it to my company, and I'm going to ask my company that use Microsoft Azure. Your company is considering deploying Windows based VMs in Azure. Okay. However, before moving forward, the management team has asked you to research the costs associated with the Azure VM. So you are going to your management and you are saying that I'm going to use Microsoft Azure, and your management is saying, okay, that's fine, we can use Azure, but tell us how we can minimize cost. Right. So you now need to document the configuration options that are likely to save the money on their Azure VM. Which option should you choose? Each answer presents parts of the solution. Choose four. So four answers you have to select in here. Use HDD instead of SSD for VM storage. Is it going to reduce your cost? Yes, of course. SSDs are much higher in cost as compared to HDD. So the first thing is, yes, you have to use HDD instead of SSD. That will cost you that will save you money. Use unmanaged premium storage instead of managed standard storage. No, if you use unmanaged premium storage, you will be charging more, because unmanaged premium storage will cost you more than managed standard storage. So second is not the option. Bring your own Windows custom images. That is also not going to help you in saving your cost, because images are by default available in marketplace. So it would rather allow you, it would rather cost you more. So bringing your own custom images does not help you a lot in terms of cost saving. Use different Azure regions. Yes, I told you in the first video of mine that when you go to Azure pricing calculator, if you change your regions, changing regions might affect your cost. So when you change your region, you might go to a region which gives you low cost in terms of a VM. So this can be one answer. Use the least powerful VMs that meet your requirement, of course. So choose the size that meets your requirement, not a size bigger than what already meets your requirement. That will be that will be simply, if your task can be done by a virtual machine of 4 GB, why should you have a virtual machine of 8 GB, right? So make sure you use the least powerful VMs that meet your requirement. That will save you money. Place all VMs in the same resource group. Does putting VMs in a resource group save you any money? Does it have anything to do with money? No, not at all. So this is not your answer. And bring your own Windows license. Yes, if you have already paid for a Windows license inside your on-premises environment and you want to use the same license on Azure VM, yes, you can save up to 49% of your cost if you use your own license on Azure. So what will be the answer for this one? The first one, use SSD instead of SSD. Then the fourth one, use different Azure regions. Then use the least powerful VMs that meet requirements. And then the last, bring your own Windows license for each VMs. Okay. Review question 3. You are planning to deploy several Linux VMs. The security team issues a policy that Linux VMs must use an authentication system other than password. If you have watched my VMs virtual machines video, you might have seen that I connected to a Linux machine by creating a SSH key pair. Right there, I gave the public key to the virtual machine while the creation of it, and when I was trying to access it through PuTTY, I give the private key. So instead of using password, you can give authentication keys in connecting to the connecting to the Linux machine. So what will be the answer for this? The SSH key pair. There are only two methods to connect to a Linux VM. The first one is through a password, just like a Windows VM, and the second one is through an SSH key pair, an SSH public private key pair. So the answer for this will be the first one. You cannot use MFA with Azure VMs. You cannot use access keys. Access keys are a concept of storage. Shared access signature is a concept of storage. Security vault certificate, it is separate. It is there in Azure Key Vault. Right. So only the first option is there. That's the right answer. Review question 4. You deploy a new VM with default settings to a resource group named RG1. So there is a VM that you deploy to a resource group. You validate that you connect to it by using remote desktop connection. That means you are able to RDP to that virtual machine. That means port 3389 is open. However, when you attempt to connect to it through PowerShell remoting, the connection fails. Now this is something which you won't find within my videos or even within this course. Why not? Because this is general information. So when you have gone through my virtual machines video, you might have seen that I discussed about NSGs or network security group over there. When I discussed about the network security group, I told you network security groups are like firewalls. So to allow a VM to be accessible for remote desktop, which port we need to open? We need to port 3389, which is for RDP. Now it says when you attempt to connect to it through PowerShell remoting. When we talk about PowerShell remoting requires two ports. If you're not aware about them, I would say, since you're working in IT, ports should be on your tips. You should know all the well-known ports, why they are being used. So it should be on your tips. PowerShell remoting it basically works on port number 5985 and 5986. So it says that you attempt to connect it through PowerShell remoting, the connection fails. What does it tells me? It tells me that the inbound connection to apply those ports, to allow those ports, is not there. So what will be my answer? My answer will be simple. Create an inbound security rule to allow port 5985 and 5986. 80 and 443 are HTTP and HTTPS. 3389 is for RDP, which is already open, and port 2021, this is not meant for PowerShell remoting. Okay. So what will be the answer of this? The answer will be second. Now review question 5. Your company has Windows Server 2012 R2 VMs and Ubuntu Linux VMs. The company has a new project to standardize the configuration of servers across all the Azure environment. The company opts to use desired state configuration. You need to ensure that DSC can be used across all VMs. Which two things should we do? How do we make sure that our virtual machines has a desired state configuration? So if you have seen my video, I have discussed about the extensions. Extensions are virtual machines Extensions are there within the virtual machine with the help of which you can do a lot of things. You can run a custom script, you can install an anti-malware solution, and there is a DSC extension as well within which you can define a statement, a declarative PowerShell statement, which allows your virtual machine to follow the same thing. So it says you want to apply desired state configuration across all VMs. What are the two steps that you need to do? So the first one is replace the Ubuntu VMs with Red Hat Enterprise Linux VM. Why should you do that? Because it is the DSC extension is not dependent upon the operating system that you're using on VM. So every VM that you create on Azure with any kind of image, there will be an option of using DSC extension over there if you go to the extensions tab. The first one is not the answer. Deploy the DSC extension? Yes. Deploy the DSC extension for Linux VM? Yes. And replace the Windows Server 2012 R2 VMs with 16. Like I told you, operating system, the DSC extensions are not based on operating system. It is available in all the virtual machine. All you need to do is go to the virtual machine. So I'll be going over here inside my uh, Azure environment, and I think I have a virtual machine which is there. When you click on the virtual machine, extensions are available in here. Click on the extension, click on the add, and you simply have to deploy whichever extension you are looking out for. So for desired state configuration, this is the extension that you will deploy, and it will work for all the VMs. It doesn't matter whether the VM has a different operating system. It will work with all the virtual machines operating system. Okay, so what will be the answer of this? Simply deploy the DXC extension for Windows Server VM and deploy the DSC extension for Linux VM. Correct? Review question 6. Another IT administrator creates an Azure virtual machine scale set with 5 VMs. So now we are moving from Azure VMs to Azure VMs scale set, right? Later you notice that the VMs are all running at max capacity with the CPU being fully consumed. However, additional VMs are not deploying in the scale set. You need to ensure that additional VMs are deployed when the CPU is 75% consumed. What should you do? I think I have already described virtual machine scale set within my videos. If you didn't find it over there, because I'm not sure whether it is available over there or not. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to simply show you this question and what will be the answer of this. So it talks about virtual machine scale set. Again, I will discuss this if it is not available within my videos, but just to give you an idea, virtual machine scale set is a feature in Azure which allows you to automatically create virtual machines instances when a particular condition is being met. So let's suppose there are these four virtual machines, right? And in all of these four virtual machines, a web app is running, right? Virtual machine scale set can only run stateless applications like web applications. So a web application is running on all four of them, and let's say all four of these virtual machines are behind a load balancer. So whatever machines are there uh, within the scale set, they are by default behind the load balancer or the application gateway, which I will tell you in a little bit while in the upcoming modules, right? So whatever traffic comes, it is automatically bifurcated to all four of these virtual machine instances within the virtual machine scale set. Now there is an option of auto scaling in virtual machine scale set. The option of auto scaling does what? Let's suppose I am defining a condition. The condition is if CPU percentage goes greater than 75, create one more virtual machine instance. Let's suppose this is your condition. Let's suppose on the first machine CPU goes above 75, right? Then it will check on the next machine what is the status of the CPU. Let's suppose it goes above 75 over here as well. And similarly, it goes above 75% in the third VM as well as in the fourth VM. So in all four of these machines, CPU percentage goes 75%. Now, if the auto scaling condition, which I have defined in here, is not enabled, what will happen? You have already said that only four instances are there within the scale set, so they will keep on working like this. They will get slow, they will even break down, but they will continue like this. But if you have the auto scale condition in this VM scale set, what will happen in the auto scale condition? You don't have to worry about the load itself. When the load reaches above 75% on the fourth machine and you have this auto scale condition available, what will happen is a new instance will be automatically created. If again in this instance you get 75% or more of CPU, and one more instance will be created. This is what auto scaling is all about. Auto scaling automatically increases the number of your instances based upon the load, and it can also decrease the number of instances while the condition is reversed. So you can also write a condition in here that if CPU percentage is less than 40, delete one instance. I think I've already covered this within my VMs video, so you can get it from there. So what will happen if the CPU percentage goes back to normal? The instances keep on deleting. Okay, that's virtual machine scale set. That's what virtual machine scale set is. So now going back over here, it says you have a virtual machine scale set with 5 VMs. So 5 VM are already there. Later you notice that the VMs are already running at maximum capacity with CPU being fully consumed. Right, so all machines are tight. They are working with CPU being fully used. However, additional VMs are not deploying in the scale set. That means maybe you have not enabled the auto scaling option. Maybe you have just said that I just want 5 machines in VM scale set. There is no auto scaling condition that you have defined. You need to ensure that additional VMs are deployed when the CPU is 75% consumed. What should you do? Select one. What will be your answer? Would you be increasing the instance count? Increasing the instance count will not help. Why not? Because like I said, even if you increase 1 or 2 count, it is static in nature. It is not dynamic in nature. Dynamic in nature, by static in nature, I mean that you have said that okay, 2 virtual machines, if the load is increasing, 2 virtual machine I will create more. Now I have 7 virtual machines within the scale set. But what if all those 7 virtual machines are also consumed? Right? So you do not have a condition which dynamically increases or decreases the number of virtual machine instances. So the answer will be first one, enable the auto scale option. Check out my virtual machine scale set video. It is there within the virtual machine itself. Now review question 7. Your company is preparing to deploy an application to Microsoft Azure. The app is a self-contained unit that runs independently on several servers. The company is moving the app to the cloud to provide better performance. To get better performance, the team has the following requirements. So they are talking about an application over here, right? And the application is self-contained that runs independently on several servers. So it is not just on one server that the application is running. It is running by using multiple servers. Company is moving that app to the cloud for better performance. These are the requirements. If the CPU across the server goes above 85%, a new VM should be deployed to provide additional resources. Based upon this condition only, I can define that this application should go to a scale set, virtual machine scale set. So what kind of Azure service can help us in automatically creating VM instances? It is virtual machine scale set. So if the CPU across the server goes above 85%, a new VM should be deployed. If the CPU across server drops below 15%, an Azure VM running the app should be decommissioned. So automatic increase, automatic decrease, or in other words, in technical words, automatically scale out and automatically scale in is being done by which service in Azure? Azure's virtual machine scale set. So what will be the answer for this? Deploy the virtual machine, deploy the app in a virtual machine scale set. That will be the answer. So based upon the condition itself, I can define what will be the answer for this. Okay. Review question 8. Your company is deploying a critical business application to Microsoft Azure. The uptime of the application is of utmost importance. The application has the following components. Now, they are saying that the uptime of the application is of utmost importance. Uptime means availability. Availability is attained by what? What do we have to attain availability in terms of virtual machine? High availability is attained by keeping the virtual machine in availability set behind a load balancer. You have 2 web servers, 2 application servers, and 2 database servers. You need to design the layout of the VM to meet the following requirement. Each VM in a tier must run on different hardware, and uptime for the application must be maximized. It can be explained simply by MS Paint, which I am going to create as of now. Okay, so what does this question says? This question says that we have an environment which we want to run on Azure. It has three tiers. Let's say this is tier 1, this is tier 2, and this is tier 3. By tier I mean segregation. Within the first tier, which is my web tier, there are two virtual machines, right? Within the application tier, again I have two virtual machines, and within my database tier I also have two virtual machines. Okay, so let's call this web tier with web-based virtual machines. This is your app tier where your applications are residing, and this is your database tier. So it says that how do I ensure the uptime of these virtual machine? Well, of course, to ensure uptime of these virtual machine, what do we have for high availability? Microsoft recommends that make sure your virtual machines in each tier are in an availability set. So this should be in one availability set, correct? Then this should be in another availability set, right? And the third one also, database tier virtual machine, they should also be in a different availability set. So all three of these virtual machines tiers should be in different availability set, and both the VMs within that tier should be a part of that availability set. Of course, they will be, yeah, of course, the traffic will be bifurcated by a load balancer. What kind of a load balancer this will be? This will be a public load balancer because it is bifurcating the traffic to these two web-based virtual machines. Similarly, the load balancer that will apply in here, that will take the traffic from these two virtual machine and send it to application tier virtual machine. This will be internal load balancer, right? Internal load balancer. And similarly here also there will be a load balancer which will be taking traffic from here. So that is here, and it will also be bifurcating the traffic to the database tier, and this will also be an internal load balancer. So this is what the company wants, and to ensure high availability, what it should have virtual machines in each tier a part of an availability set, so that at least one of the VM is available all the time. So you need to design the layout of the VMs to meet the following requirement. Each VM in a tier must run on a different hardware. How do we ensure that? We ensure that with availability set. Uptime for the application must be maximized. That is also done through availability set. Now what are the answers? Deploy one VM from each tier into one availability set and the remaining VMs into a separate availability set. That's the first answer that we have, right? Okay, we'll discuss that as well. Deploy the VMs from each tier into a dedicated availability set for the tier. This is the answer, which I have already shown you inside the diagram, why we should have it. Deploy the application and databases VM in one availability set and the web VMs into a separate availability set. That is another option that you have. Deploy a load balancer for the web VMs and then availability set to hold the application and database VMs. Why the other three options are not the right options for them? Why? If you say deploy one VM from each tier into one availability set and the remaining VMs into a separate availability set, what this answer is saying? This answer is saying create an availability set like this. So these three virtual machines will be in one availability set, and the remaining these three virtual machines will be in this availability set. Does it make any sense? Why doesn't it make any sense? Because in an availability set, it is guaranteed that at least one of the virtual machine will be available, right? Let's suppose in both of these two availability set, at the same time, both the database machines are gone. What will happen? Database will not be available, right? So Microsoft says that at least one VM in an availability set will always have an uptime, which we cannot achieve if we divide the availability set in horizontal way like this. This is not possible. Maybe in availability set 1 and 2, both these database machine can go at once. We'll lose our databases, right? So it should be created in every tier. You should have one availability set within which you keep your VMs. Do not distribute your availability set into different tiers. That is the recommended approach. And other three options are also saying the same thing. Deploy the application and database VM in one availability set. That is not possible. We cannot do that. We have segregated these tiers and we will segregate them with availability set as well. So what will be the answer for this? Deploy the VM from each tier into a dedicated availability set for the tier. The answer will be the second one. You deploy an Azure VM into an availability set. That is the ninth question. The VM is the only VM in the availability set. So now we have an availability set with only one virtual machine. The VM runs an application named app1. The VM has the following characteristic. It uses standard storage. The VM does not have any data disks, and the VM was built with a custom image. During an Azure planned maintenance event, the VM experienced downtime. The company issues a new requirement for the app, that is, app1 must remain available during Azure planned maintenance event. You need to configure your environment to meet the new requirement. What should you do? Now, this question is very good because it says that I have configured an availability set, but I only have a virtual machine. So how do I ensure that my virtual machine is highly available even if there is a planned maintenance from Azure? So Microsoft says that in an availability set, at least deploy two virtual machines so that one of the virtual machine is available when a planned maintenance is going on in the second virtual machine. And we will ensure that at least one of the VM in an availability set is always up. That is what Microsoft ensures you. That is the SLA that Microsoft gives to you. Now you only have one virtual machine in an availability set. Of course, it will go down and you will face downtime. So how do you make sure that you are not going to have a downtime? The first option is deploy a second VM to the same availability set. Correct? Am I right? This is the easiest option. Deploy the second VM into the same availability set. Right? Now you have two VMs. One of the VMs will always be available. Can you deploy a second VM to the same update domain? No, we do not deploy to the update domain or the fault domain. If you have seen my video, I've told you, you deploy to the availability set and it automatically chooses fault domain and update domain. So second and third options are not there. Convert the VM storage to a premium storage. This is something which you might not found within my videos, but this is also one of the answers. Why? Because when your VM is using premium storage, only in the case of using a premium storage, when you're using a premium storage, what happens is when you convert a VM to a premium storage is available even during the Azure planned maintenance events, right? So that is also helps you in the uptime of your application. So always remember, if your virtual machine has a premium storage, the storage will be available even during a planned maintenance event. So if the storage is available, what you can do is your disks are available. So even if your virtual machine is down, you already have a storage available to you. So your information, your data will not be lost. There will be no downtime at that moment. So either go with the premium storage. So the best option is go with the virtual machine, second virtual machine, add it to the same availability set, or you can convert the VM storage to a premium storage, just so that in a case of planned event, you at least get access to your premium storage, because premium storage does not go away even during a planned event from Microsoft. So the answer will be first and fourth. Review question 10. You begin a new job at a company. You are exploring the existing Microsoft Azure implementation with a plan to document it. First, you're documenting the virtual machine details. You need to go gather the details of virtual machine data disk. Which type of storage should you review for data disk? I have already taken module 2 about storage, and I told you in storage what kind of storage is used to keep virtual hard disks. Do I keep my virtual hard disk in a table? No, because table uses structured data. Do I keep them inside queues? No, because queues are meant for storing messaging. Do I keep it inside Azure CDN? I haven't even told you about CDN as of now. So what is blob storage? And which kind of blob storage you can keep your VHDs, if you remember? Right? So blob storage you want to keep your VHDs in, and within the blob storage you have to keep them within the page blobs, because page blobs are specifically meant for VHDs. So you know that there are three kind of blobs: block blobs, page blobs, and append blobs. If you remember from my Azure storage video. So where would you put your data disk? You will put them within the blob storage. So that is all, guys. That is all the review questions that I have in here. These review questions are very important to understand if you want to clear your examination, because in examination also you will get these kind of questions. So your concepts should be right. If your concepts are right, you can answer any question. What is the best approach to answer a multiple choice question? Take it from me. Go through all the options, select which you think can be the answer, and remove all those answers which you think are straight away no. Look at question number 10. I I know that table does not store any kind of structured data, so I already removed it. Queue is used for messaging. Nobody uses it. It is used for messaging. It is not used for keeping any data like virtual hard disk. CDNs. In your case, you don't even know what a CDN is. You might not even know what a CDN is, and I know we cannot put VHDs in CDNs. So where will I put it? The only option left was blob storage. So that's my approach. When I have multiple choice question and I'm not sure what will be the answer, I remove the answers which I'm sure of that they cannot be the right answer, and then I focus on those options which I think that they can be the answer, and then I select the best one out of them. This should be your approach when you are handling multiple choice questions, because that way you can answer questions in a much better way and you can clear your examination. That is all the review questions from the Azure Virtual Machines uh, module. In the second video, we will be discussing review questions from Azure Store.